I think it's so important to express yourself through music. And I think that that's like one of the best gifts you can give the world. And I find it also extremely important that if you love the scene, you should contribute to the scene. I think it's so important that when you're playing music, you're not just playing other people's music, that you're creating yourself, that you're giving back to the scene, your art.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gia here from ArtistMap by 6 a.m. I'm joined here by Gino, aka Atroxx, and our editor-in-chief at 6 a.m., plus our ArtistMap community manager, Kevin Ching. The reason why we decided to do this is, number one, we have a very exciting announcement that we wanted to share, and that is ArtistMap will be officially partnering up with Atroxx's electronic music school called the Faculty of Electronic Music. We are doing this Zoom call right now to kind of kick off really our partnership going into this summer, and to use this opportunity with Kevin here being the moderator to, do a live Q&A, well, live for us, but it'll be reposted on our YouTube channels and be able to share some of the valuable information that we hope to bring you. Kevin has brought a bunch of questions for us to really address, and more so than answering the questions, it really touches upon the entire journey of an artist, from making music in the studio to then what do you do afterwards, what are the mindset, the approach in order to get signed, in order to get gigs, and then so forth to build and leverage your career. So a lot of the times when I talk, it's mainly coming from just an industry members, artist manager, more like an artist coach. And to have Gino here, Atroxx, really coming from the perspective of an artist. He himself is no stranger in the techno world, a resident at Stereo Montreal. So this is a really, really exciting time for us. Gino, I'm going to let you take it away, let you quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll have Kevin begin the Q&A.
Sure. So my artist name is Atroxx. I have two aliases called Melora, Synthwave, Prague, and Three Faces of Eve, which is more of the Berlin techno, harder stuff. I'm from Montreal, Canada. I have a background in music. I played drums for 20 plus years, played some piano, currently taking piano lessons again. Played a little bit of guitar, a little bit of sax. But anyways, long story short, mostly drums. And I got obsessed with making electronic music about 11 years ago. Took it very seriously, and thought I'd share that experience with the world.
Awesome. And liberty. To give people context, your father owns a music school in Montreal, and then you have created a electronic music division under that school.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why we're here and partnering up, bringing ArtistMap concepts versus the technicality skills, as well as the mindset that you have in place over at the Faculty of Electronic Music. Great to have you. Kevin, I'm going to let you take it away, man, in terms of your first few questions for us, and let's see how this goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. It's always great to talk to both of you. My first question is just out of curiosity, because Gia and Gino, both of you are very successful at what you guys do. Gia, obviously you have your 6 a.m. brand, and Gino, obviously very successful as Atroxx. It's just curious, why you guys decided to go on this journey for teaching other DJ producers, educating others, when you already have so much on your plate. Why go on to this? Why are you guys deciding to go this route for your futures?
Yeah.
Endeavors?
I'll let you start.
Sure. Well, it's a little tough managing time between both, but I think the reason why that I got into it, other than my father owning the school, being a teacher himself, is just that I think it's so important to express yourself through music. And I think that that's like one of the best gifts you can give the world. In my opinion, maybe even bigger gift than having them dance on the dance floor, because it's a therapy. I know that dancing is a therapy as well, but this is like really giving you birth to how you feel. And it could save lives. Like, you know what I mean?
Creating music. It's creating the music that makes people dance. It's the content.
Exactly.
Why people dance.
And I find it also extremely important that if you love the scene, you should contribute to the scene. And I think it's so important that when you're playing music, you're not just playing other people's music, that you're creating yourself, that you're giving back to the scene, your art, and also in the long run being therapeutic and letting go of emotions and just giving birth to your inner self, So I thought that would be, I just think it's so important that people learn music. It doesn't matter if it's electronic music or guitar or piano, I don't care, but I really, really want to push to people to express themselves.
For sure. I mean, it's a gift that you have honed down. I mean, being a musician and obviously coming from the background, that is understandable why you would go into that route. And to answer you, Kevin, I know that you know this, but I mean, ultimately in my journey in building the 6am brand since 2008, I hit a roadblock in 2017 where I was burnt out from just building the brand, doing events and festivals. And I myself was also a DJ as well. You know, I still am. I've been playing a lot of gigs and whatnot, but ultimately this sense of purpose, right? Or happiness, if you will, wasn't there, even though I had accomplished, you know, all the things that I set out to do for myself. And I think in order for a lot of people to continue in this journey, you have to find that deeper purpose. And I think that's the reason why you felt like giving back was one of the best ways. And if you read any entrepreneurial book, any business books, they will tell you that finding your purpose and giving value back to the very community that you're a part of is the most fulfilling way. And, you know, obviously if you can sustain that in a business sense, that's ultimately the goal. But that, you know, wasn't the main reason why I started ArtistMap. Because I'm not a producer by heart, you know, I went through the DJ journey. You know, I understood though what it takes to go from a nobody to someone playing the main stage. I've seen it, you know, over my tenure, and I realized where a lot of people are really frustrated at and get to the point where they quit is they only learn how to make music, right? Like they spend all their time, their money buying the gears, all of that, spending all the years learning how to make music. But in order to make it, it goes so much more than that, right? What's the mindset you need to have? How do you deal with rejections? Right? What are the marketing skills that you need to have to get your music out there when nobody has heard of you in the beginning? These are all things that a lot of music schools have clearly missed or have not made it their focal point. Understandably so, because a music school should teach artists how to make music. So really where I saw the gap in ArtistMap and creating it was that, well, there's a whole aspect on mindset and approach, right? More like coaching an artist how to position themselves and creating a roadmap for success. Because you and I both knows, and even Kevin knows as well too, that it's so much more than just writing music and mastering the track. Because after that, there's so much more that happens. And that's really where ArtistMap comes in. And it's the reason why I wanted to share that knowledge using that 360-degree angle, because I've literally been in every position for it. So that's really it. And I feel like you and I have that same purpose and the value we want to give. So very excited.
Hell yeah.
Definitely. And I know that on our first call, we definitely have the same mindset, which I think is
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So, and then, so going off of that, just the social media marketing aspect, but then also at the same time with the artist aspect, what do you feel should take the priority from both sides? And then at what point do you think that one should take over the other? Because obviously there's got to be some balance, but there's going to be points where, you know, maybe you need to focus on the artistry part, or maybe you need to focus on your marketing part, and your social media. So what would your guys' opinion be on that part?
Yeah.
Want to go ahead or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'll go. In terms of the importance of it, you know, I know there are various answers, but I've been pondering on this a lot. I feel like it comes down to where you are in the journey, right? If you are just opening up Ableton, or you are only a year into this thing and you know that your music isn't 80% as good as your favorite producer, which is the benchmark that we have set at ArtistMap, how do you know you're ready? Well, you got to make music 80% as good as your favorite producer. And you and I, even though I don't really produce music, that's hard as shit, right? So I feel like until you can do that, really marketing and social media should be a skill that you learn, but not something you activate. Now, what I mean by that is, you know, you can learn how to make music, but at the same time, understand how artist marketing works, how to position yourself. But that doesn't mean that you just go out there and start blasting yourself right away, because you still need to develop the skills needed, right? Which is why an ArtistMap is broken down into phases. Phase one, what do we do in phase one? We only focus on writing the music, focus on developing your network, creating your database of labels, preparing yourself for that next phase. Now in phase two is all about marketing and social media, because it needs to come in a sequence. Where a lot of people really fuck up excuse my language, is they try to do both at the same time. And what happens is this: they write a little bit of music, right? And they go, all right, I'm ready. Or they post a little snippet on their social media, like, yeah, working on some tracks. Those are just vanity posts as well. Like, what's the point? What's the end goal of your social media, right? Is to engage with your fans. Well, if you're starting out, hate to say this, you don't really have any fans, right? Your friends, your mom, your sister. I mean, yes, they're great supporters, but those are not the fans that you're trying to win and engage. So for me, it just comes down to timing. Learn it as soon as you can, but you don't have to activate it. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. The way I see it is you should focus on marketing. It should be equivalent to how much work you put into Ableton. That's what I always tell my students. So it should be the same. So as you're growing, the more you're growing with your music, the more you're growing with your social media. And I always think that they should start, if they're really doing it for the long term, they should start early and start building their brand early so that they can start to get the ball rolling. Now, this doesn't mean that they blast social media, because they're not blasting Ableton. They're not on Ableton 24 hours a day. If they are, then I feel like that should be an equivalent balance. But one thing I do encourage my students, only because of my personal journey, so this could be wrong, but I always tell my students that when you're making tracks, put snippets on social media that you're working. Let the world know that you're working hard. And I've come to realize that, because that's how I got on the radar with some of my favorite clubs and getting some residencies. Was some of the bookers at these clubs, they only want to take residents when they see people are working hard and are producing. And that's how I got on their radar. Every day I was producing a track, every single day. And every day I'd put a snippet. Me in the studio, me in the studio, me in the studio, me in the studio. And it lets people know that you are giving your time. And not in an ego way, not like, look at what I'm doing or anything, but like today's new project, something humble, but showing the world, yeah, I'm trying, I'm giving it all I've got. That's one thing I encourage my students. Now, I could, if that's not a good idea, I'm totally open to the idea, because like I said, that's only my experience, so that doesn't mean it's going to.
Hey, look, no, I mean, I do think sharing the snippets is fine. I think if you use that as an accountability tool, right? Like, I'm posting this for public accountability that I'm going to finish this track. Now, if you're just only showing previews and snippets, but you never finish anything, that's where I personally have a problem with seeing that, right? Like,
and think of that, well, yeah.
And here's the thing, there's other ways to show promoters that you're working hard. And this is coming from a promoter myself.
Yeah.
Get on podcast mixes. There are so many podcast mixes that you can get on that you can showcase to your 1 or 2 tracks within your mix on there as well. That's also another way to show. It doesn't, while it is important, like, to show that you're working hard in the studio, I think there's also other ways to show that you're working hard. And one way is to get on as many podcast guest mixes as you can.
Great idea. Yeah. Okay. That's great.
Cool. Does that answer your question, Kevin? And hey,
yeah,
for those of you watching, if we didn't answer your question, or if you have more questions to our answer, drop a comment below on the YouTube. And Gino and I will try to answer to the best of our ability. So let's keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know for a fact that it's going to be a different answer for everyone, but it's just always good to hear from people who have an expertise in it.
Feel free to chime in too, Kevin. You're live with us. So, if you agree or disagree, or add on to another question if you would like to give the audience some context. So just letting you know.
Yeah, so actually that leads to my next question. Would be something, because you mentioned to actually start with kind of like your brand concept as you're growing as an artist. Actually having an artist name and having a logo.
Hey, hold on, you're kind of cutting off a little bit.
Yeah, you cut out.
Have an idea who you are. Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, perfect. So as far as you mentioned the getting your kind of like your brand and growing it as you grow as an artist. Do you mean to kind of go to the next level of, as you're starting to produce tracks, you kind of like, I'm going to create a logo, I'm going to create my artist name, I'm going to kind of create like visuals, or to what degree do you think that someone should?
I think having an artist name is fine. If you really want to work on a logo and stuff because you're like creatively burned out in the studio and you just want to like get that going, but with the intent of holding off, like, all right, I'm gonna just work on this to have it prepared and ready, but not to be like, aha, look, new logo, but it's like you don't even have a track sign or anything. So for me, I think it's just a matter of when you show the world, like you can plan and prepare anytime you want. For me, it's like, what is your priority in terms of rolling it out? I think that's where the artists have to find some discipline, if you will, because even when I was coming up as a young DJ and stuff, even before my first gig, I had a logo. And it's like, thinking back, it was like, clearly my head was not in the right thing. I just wanted to DJ and be like, look at my logo. But, that was not where the effort and focus should have been at. And I just wanted to let artists know that you can prepare and plan anytime you want. But like Gino said, make sure that the time you're spending on marketing, is equivalent to Ableton. And I will say that your time to spend in Ableton, it should be way more than it is with marketing, because with marketing, you can always learn that stuff. And if you can learn Ableton, I'm saying this, like if you can truly learn Ableton, you can learn marketing. That's 100% guaranteed.
I hope so. I need to learn a little bit more marketing. I'll tell you that much.
For sure. No,
but that's one thing I tell my students a lot too is, from my experience, the only time I really started to learn more about marketing was when I finally got picked up by a booking agent, and finally got picked up by a manager. And then I really started to see it happen. So when I say like doing marketing while Ableton, I mean very humbly. I mean like a logo and stuff like that. I still need to do a new Atroxx logo. And you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking more just like posting some stories, posting your flyer of your gigs. So just very small little things to let people know you exist.
Yeah.
And start growing from there so that the ball slowly starts rolling, so that when you do get your first EP out, it's not like you've got nobody that knows your music. At least now you've got maybe 50 people that listen to the techno you make. So then, word of mouth, they tell people. So you get that little kickstart. Otherwise, your first EP comes out, you've got nothing going on, and you're just like, oh my God, I gotta pay for this and that. And
Hey, Gino, in ArtistMap, I love to use the sporting world as analogy. And I think what you've just laid out is perfect in terms of martial arts and the world of martial arts and mixed martial arts, right? Look, by the time the fighter is fighting the UFC main card, they have already, they've, how many years of training, unknown years, right? Nobody knows who they are. They didn't have no branding, didn't have no endorsements. And it's, and they had their small circle of friends and supporters, the 50 to 60, right? But it's always their training in silence up until they're fully ready. And then out of nowhere, right? They always say out of nowhere, but did it really come from nowhere?
Yeah, it blew up overnight.
This has been training their asses off.
Yeah.
Many, many years. It's just you are only seeing them now. And so, you and for everyone that's watching this, being an electronic music artist, you have to see yourself really as that, as this mixed martial artist that's just training in silence, training in the unknown, and really sharpening your skills, so that when you do finally send that demo out, when you do finally make the post like, hey world, I'm here, it's gonna be like, holy shit, where did this person come from? This person didn't just come out of nowhere. You've been putting in 4 or 5 years of hard work. You mastered marketing before you even made your first post. You just know how to map everything out. And, I think that's essentially the best way to go. And I think there's a few examples that we can, that's not really coming out of my head. Well, Zoo is one good example. I talk about him, right? A lot of people say he came out of nowhere. Well, I've known him personally when he was still a local DJ. And no, he didn't just come out of nowhere. Like he's been around, he's been making killer music, great music, ghostwriting for Denmark Studios for a long time, right? And then eventually found a manager that understood how to craft him.
Yeah.
And boom, there you go. So that's one example I wanted to share.
Okay.
And just have to tread carefully on this.
Fantastic.
All right, cool.
Well, I'll tell you what though. I was gonna say that's one of the reasons why as well that I'm partnering up with you guys is your level of expertise to the fullest is marketing. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, what I'm bringing I feel that I'm bringing my students, like I love my students. Every one of my students is so dedicated and they're learning so fast with the productions that it freaks me out. They're really fantastic, all of them. And what I want to bring to them is exactly what you're offering, and it couldn't be from anyone better than you. So it's really
Hey, and by the way, I did not tell Atroxx to mention this midway through.
no, not at all.
I'm just kidding. But thank you so much, Gino. And hey, look, I almost want to say it's now our students. My students is now to your students. I mean, this 100%. Is how deep this partnership is going to go. And I want to share this with you guys. As of now, we haven't figured out what the new branding is going to be. It might just be ArtistMap with Faculty of Electronic Music, but we haven't even gone that far. For us, we're just literally laying out the brick by brick foundation of what, truly an artist school versus, a mindset school, if you will, that's catered to electronic music. Mm-hmm. So, you're seeing this as we're developing it as well. And yeah, this is great for us to catch up. Kevin, hit us to the next one.
Yeah. So, you were talking about demos earlier. I was curious what were your thoughts on sending to kind of bigger labels versus smaller labels? Like, should producers who are just starting out, like Gino, for your students, would you even recommend and say, hey, don't even send to, the Christian Smith label. Don't even bother with that. Just send to a smaller label.
No, I'll give you a quick breakdown.
What would you guys recommend?
I almost have this memorized because I've told every student the same thing, and the ones that are watching, they've heard it a million times. So I go A, B, and C labels, okay? Shoot for the A labels. They listen. If you catch them, don't send them emails during demos during tour season, let's say, but they listen and you'll catch them. You never know, and it's happened to me. Send to an A label, send to a B label, and send to a C label. B labels, they have fantastic promo. They're still friends with all the big dogs, so their promo is what you want from them, in my opinion. You want it to get to all the big dogs, Pleasure Craft, Adam Bear, everybody else, okay? Then the C labels, what you need to do is you really have to do your research with the C labels. A, you have to see, do they chart? Do they get features on Beatport? Do people play their music? And sometimes the C labels will be a big dog's C label. They'll have like Mark Antonio, he has Analytic Trail, and then he has MKT Rec.
Yep,
Spartak has Codex and IMT.
Oscar Malero's got Pole Group and Warm-Up Recordings. And yes, you're right.
Adam Bear's Drum Code and True Soul.
Yeah.
So you don't know who you'll come across, but you're going to have to do more research on your C labels. But it can still be very much worth it. You just got to know, you got to look into what they're doing and who they are. But I say drop the ladder. Send to A, send to B, and then send to C. Because they all have something to offer you.
So do you send all at once, or do you send it one at a time as like the A?
I like to give a leeway between each one, because an A label may get back to you a month later,
Sure.
And you could tell a label, I'm sorry, someone else is taking it. It's happened to me. So.
Yeah. Hey, and I think just to add on that, I think, Gino, you're 100% right, because if you're essentially shooting your demo out, you want to shoot your shots across the board. But I will go ahead and add that it's important to have this expectation of like, you're probably not going to hear it back, and let that be okay. Let that 100% be okay. You cannot kick yourself in the foot. Like, even if it's a quote unquote C label. And, I think we're saying this based on tiers, right? I think the size of the label, not the quality of the labels.
No, exactly. Right. I'm talking about reach.
Yep. Like the reach and whatnot. And, I think also the context of your send. I'm not going to go too deep into like how you should send your demo, but it shouldn't just be, hey, here's my link, check it out. It should be well crafted, but not too lengthy, where you're talking about your entire, history of life and stuff. So we actually cover that in ArtistMap in terms of how to write the emails and stuff, what to include, so that the labels feel like if and when they sign you, that they're, there's a lot of context, and that they also feel like they're winning as well too, right? Because signing an artist, essentially, it helps the label expand their reach into the artist's audience. Did that answer the question, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. And Gia, you mentioned the rejection portion, and so that's something I think everyone deals with. But what would your guys' best advice be for people who are constantly getting rejected, but then everyone around them says like your music is really good, but then for some reason they're just constantly getting rejected, they have no idea why, they bring their music to other people, other experts say this is really good music, try to send to these labels, then all of a sudden these labels say no, this is not for us. I how does someone deal with rejection and then keep going forward?
I've got a quick story for that.
Yeah.
So D-Unity did a special guest course 2 weeks ago, and he had the same story. The whole reason why he started a label was because everybody rejected him. That's why he started his label, and now he's D-Unity. So that's one way. For me, all I say is everyone who's made it, never quit. It's that simple. Get rejected 24 hours, 100 times a day. It doesn't matter. If you don't quit, you're going to get to where you want to go. Yeah. That's just
hey, and I want to add to that, and Gino, you're spilling a little bit of my announcement for phase 3. I think you're right. So yesterday I was driving Oscar Milero back to the airport. Oscar Milero is a freaking legend. He's in his 50s, and I just asked him like, "Hey, man, if you were 22 years old today, Oscar Milero, what would you do? How would you do it?" And he pondered a little bit, and he said, "You know what? I would still do the same thing. I would still launch Pole Group, and he would still launch his own label." And ultimately, while that sounds like a daunting task, that's really an artist's way of taking back control into it. That's truly one way, and that essentially is what we're going to be writing about in phase 3. Phase 3, we're actually going to talk about how to launch your own label and build your own community. And I think it's 100% vitally important that every artist at least considers that, because if you look at every big artist that has made it, right? There's Adam Bayer, Drumco, Jamie Jones, Paradise, Tell of Us, Afterlife. I mean, Gia, 6 AM, Atroxx, you have your own label. Damien, Unity Records. I mean, everyone has their own platform. And a lot of the artists I've been talking to now, a lot of them they would just start their own label because it's easier now. Whereas back in the day, it was easier to send out demos because there was, the supply and demand aspect of things. So, I would say, like, to really answer it, shoot your shot, right? I think it's still good to go through the motions of like what it's like, right? It never hurts to sharpen your approach and just shoot your shot, but also, really take serious consideration just launching your own label. There's no law to saying that, there's a limit cap on how many labels can be launched in a single year. There isn't. And I just recently launched ours, Synthetic Sounds, which is with another partner, and I just went through the process, and it's not that hard. It really isn't at all. And very excited to actually put that into a course so that, when an artist then goes through their journey of writing music, understand how to promote their own brand and their music, and then following that, how do you launch your label and then promote that? So 100%, that would be the solution. That's the answer, I think, for now.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So if an artist is facing a lot of rejection, you would say it's like try to carve your own path, and essentially.
I think so. And look, just know that it's a part of it.
Yeah.
I'll share this with you. I mean, look, before I got my first gig in LA, I was a bedroom DJ for 3 years. I was that bad at networking. I was MySpacing, DMing people. Like, I wanted to quit and give up. And this is just getting a gig where people were just getting gigs every freaking weekend and stuff. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're going through the DJ route or the producer route, you're going to have to go through it. And, if you don't quit and you have the desire to improve yourself, right? Well, I'm not good at networking. Well, toughen up, thicken your skin and go after it. Get rejected more, right? Because like Gino says, everyone that succeeds or at least have hit their goal in this, it's because they never gave up. So very cliche answer, but man, it's
truth. Yeah.
What if this is the truth? It's the truth. But so you were talking about creating your own label. What about a level just below that? Not necessarily creating your own label, but what about just like independently releasing something, not necessarily by creating your own label?
The best way to do it is anybody can go to Bandcamp and create your own artist profile. You don't have to have a label, and you can just upload your music and promote that link. Yeah.
And at what point should an artist do that, you feel like? Or like once it's like, okay, I've had like so many rejections. I'm not ready to create a label yet. What point would you guys say that, hey, let's why don't you just release your music on Bandcamp like you said, Gia?
Yeah. For those that's following my screen, sorry, I try to upgrade the screen time and stuff, but yeah, I mean, look, you know what? I didn't really hear your question. You're gonna have to ask that again. I got bothered mid question in because of that whole thing that came up. Apologize. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Gino, were you able to hear what I asked?
Yeah, I did. For me, it's a tough question because I always push my students to maybe go that route later in their production career, because I think what's most beneficial about signing to a label is their promo, pool. And I think that if you have a zero promo, like, don't get me wrong, you can Instagram message artists, and 50 or 60% of them will reply and give you their promo email, which is great. But overall, if you don't have a fat promo list and you release a track, how are you going to get it in the hands of anybody is the question. It's very tough. And that's why I say go with the ABC route at first. Build a bit of a following and then look into, I feel like if you really just want to go to the route of promoting yourself and releasing yourself because you're not getting signed, I think you're more or less likely being impatient.
Yeah.
Because you get signed. If your music is good, you're going to get signed. It's only a matter of time. So, you know what I mean? Until someone likes your music. And even if it's unique, I like to think that my music is somewhat unique and a little more aggressive, but still not too aggressive where it's put into that hardcore techno stuff. But you just got to be patient, and you got to take 2 hours a month, every single month, sending out demos. The same way you send out CVs until you get a job. So
yep. I mean, that's why you have to make time for it. That's why, being able to create that database while you're creating the music of labels. And to answer the question, sorry about that. I mean, yes, I think if releasing on Bandcamp just fulfills you, like you're like, this just makes me happy. I don't care if nobody buys it. I just want to say that it's released, it's out in the world, then by all means do it. But if your goal is to get heard, get your tracks supported by other artists, going with the label that has a good promo pool is the way to go. It's not to say that luck can strike in a way where, let's say, Emily Lenz or Adam Bear just so happens to buy things on Bandcamp and they're like, ooh, what's this artist? And they click on it. But that chance is very, very low and stuff. So it just depends on your angle. And like Gino says, if your end goal is to get discovered and all that, you just have to be patient and just continue to build that database of labels. It doesn't matter, A, B's, and C's, right? Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3s, and make time for it. Which is why it's important that you want to spend as much time as you can and make music, so that when you're in the marketing to yourself, you're spending equal amount of time as you did in Ableton, because it requires just as much work in the marketing and putting yourself out there as it is to make music.
So that's great. So as far as, since you guys are so focused on trying to have equal time, say for example, like as for me, I don't have the best visual talent. Like I'm not really good with making art stuff. What would your guys' recommendation be for an alternative, so that way I can focus more on just making my music and then making that marketing aspect a little bit easier?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer this, but to keep in mind that we have 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: if you don't have money, learn it. As I mentioned earlier, if you can learn Ableton, that software with all these little crazy things, you can learn graphic media on Canva. Canva is a tool. It's a self-made tool that it's drag and drop. It's a lot easier than Ableton. Trust me. I've worked with Canva. I've worked with Ableton. Canva is way easier. Now, if you have a little bit of money, right? If you have a good job and you don't have the time to do it, go to Fiverr and have someone help you create the content. Hire someone, delegate that work. If you don't want to be the DJ producer that ends up being the graphic designer and all of that, right? So there's always two options to do it. Either you learn it, and most of the time I think you will be able to learn it if you put in the effort that you did. And if you don't, find a graphic designer on Fiverr to help you be able to craft that, or sign up to ArtistMap Phase-2. We actually talk about branding and social media. And, if you need more help, talk to your friends that are in the marketing world. I think we're also living in a world now where there's a lot of digital marketers in our scene. I think they're just reaching out and really talking to a marketer, be like, hey, show me what branding is for my artists. I mean, I think those are the three angles we try to go with.
One thing I'll add real quick is one thing that helped me in the past was just following those Instagram accounts that show you quick tips on marketing on Instagram. You know, they're like, do this, do this, do this, and it's like a minute long, and they just show you real quick. I found those to be really helpful.
Yeah. And the thing is, but here's the thing, most people like in our scene are too cool for that, or like they don't want to take the action. It's like everybody took the time to learn how to DJ, how to produce music, but this is the last piece that gets everything out, how to create content and how to promote that content. So again, it's making the time and taking the time to learn this craft.